Hey cake lovers, so today is story time and I'm going to tell you the story about my first two-tiered cake that I made. But before we get started, if this is your first time here, hi, my name is Denise and I'm a pro cake baker and decorator, and on this channel I talk about my continuing journey as a cake baker and decorator, as well as some tutorials, and I also review cake related products. So before I get started into my story, what is a two-tiered cake? So a two-tiered cake or a tiered cake is when one layer is stacked on top of another. Normally tiered cakes, it's like in increments of 2 inches. So for example, if the bottom tier is an 8-inch, then it follows that the tier, if you're doing a two-tier cake, that the next tier will be a 6-inch cake. It just looks more pleasing on the eye. Though this is not a hard and fast rule, because I've seen 5 inches stacked on 8 inches just to make it look a little bit different. But normally you'd have like sort of 8, 6 and then 4, for example. So that's what a two-tiered cake is. So this two-tiered cake that I made was actually for my cousin's engagement sort of do that we had, and it was in 2014, so my memory is a bit hazy, but I think I sort of volunteered to do the cake, and I wanted to do a two-tier cake because I'd never done one before. So so she was fine with that. So it was I believe it was an 8-inch at the bottom and a 6-inch at the top. So I was like, okay, I was really excited about doing it. I read up to see how you do actually stack a cake on top of another, because I had a vague idea but I wasn't sure, but I knew that I had to have supports in it. Now if you don't have supports in the bottom tier of a cake and you're stacking other tiers on top, the cake will fall in on itself, because surprisingly once cake is all decorated it is quite heavy. So I knew I had to put supports in there. So what I did, I read up online and I found I didn't actually look up online, but I had an idea. So I got some bubble tea straws. You can use wooden dowels or sort of opaque plastic dowels, but these are what I use. So I put these in the bottom tier and I thought, fine, that's fine. And then I put the 6-inch tier on top, and I thought, there's something missing. What am I missing? And what I realised was, in between the tiers you need to have a thin cake board to keep everything level. And at the time I'd already put the 6-inch on top, and I was like, oh gosh, I need to put a thin cake board, and I didn't have any thin 6-inch cake board. So this is what I did. I ended up getting a cake lid, and I actually cut what I thought was roughly a 6-inch circle. I didn't even measure it, and what I should have done was got a 6-inch tin and just did a trace round it. I don't know why I didn't think of that. I think I was just panicking. I was like, oh my gosh. So I roughly cut out a 6-inch, put it underneath and put the cake on top, and I was like, okay, good. So, everything looked kind of okay. And yeah, so I know you're now all dying to see the cake, so I'm going to put the picture in here. As you can see, for my first tiered cake, it doesn't look too bad, but what you can't see is the fact that it is actually leaning back. But the angle that I took the picture at doesn't show that. But that shows that I didn't stack it as well as I thought I had, because a cake shouldn't be leaning back like that. But it was fine. It was for it was for family. It wasn't for a cake order. So I learned a lot by doing it, and I'm glad I did do it. So yeah. And one thing that I forgot to mention was that it didn't actually fall. As much as it was leaning back, it didn't fall. So the structure actually did do something. So what did I learn? I learned that when you're doing something new, and I'm talking from a business perspective, it's best to practice. So do a mock-up of one, because you don't want to do a cake that you've never done before on an order and then it just turns out really trash, especially with a two-tiered cake, because it's very important that you get the support systems in. So if you are doing this as an order, or if you're not and you're a hobby baker and you're just doing it for a friend, a family, but you want to make sure everything is kind of level, I would suggest doing like a bit of a dry run. Do a practice one. It really helps. What I will do though, I have obviously done two-tiered cakes since then, and I found a system that's worked for me, which is Liz Merrick SugarGeek's cake stacking method, which she uses bubble tea straws, and she has a what do you call it, like a guide of where to put the straws depending on how big the tiers are, and I have found that really useful. So what I will do is I will put a link to her website in the description, so you can go and have a look if you're not really sure how to stack cakes. So that's it, that's my story. I'd like to share, if anybody else wants to share their stories of their first tiered cakes and whether it was a disaster or not. I'm gonna have some videos here, so if you want to check out other videos on my channel. So yeah, until next time, cake lovers.